Halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you could be hanging out with us. Tyler Head with the day off as he's still at Daytona doing whatever you do at Daytona after the 500. He'll be back with us tomorrow, I think, unless he gets a job in the pits. Our boy Tyler loves himself some NASCAR. He loves racing. So, Tyler, we think he'll be back tomorrow. And we'll roll it solo here. My buddy Ed Bird's here to punch the buttons for us, keep us on the air, keep us on track as we go up until 3 o'clock. Also, we'll have some Sean Elliott sound. If you missed that earlier, Shane Beamer introducing his new tight ends coach / run game coordinator. But, I mean, needs no introduction to Gamecock fans. Sean Elliott obviously has a nice warm spot in every Gamecock fan's heart for when Sean Elliott was here in the past. Sean Elliott back, and you heard a lot of his thoughts in the presser today. I picked up got to listen to when he was talking about the Gamecock fans and how it's just different here. And, yeah, I mean, you know, look, it's different here. It's different. The SEC is just different. And how fan bases love college football. And here it's as passionate as anywhere in the country. Sean Elliott says, just not the same at Georgia State. Well, yeah, I get why, to be fair. A whole different vibe. But it is. It's the passion for Gamecock football, real high level. And Sean Elliott talking about that in his presser and other things as well. We'll, if you missed some of it, we'll be popping some sound from Sean Elliott and Shane Beamer through the show here between noon and 3 here on the game. Good weekend for the most part. Gamecocks. The women got the W. It was, a little slow, but South Carolina got to go in the second half and got that win over Georgia to set the record for consecutive SEC victories. Also, baseball, a sweep of Miami of Ohio, got a no-hitter on Sunday. That was all good. The men, till the last few seconds, looked like they'd also post a W against LSU. That didn't happen. And that was far and away the worst loss of the season for the Gamecock men. That was the first time they took one of those. And really, it's the first time this year that they had a lead late in the game and they didn't close the deal. It was, that one was, it was just, it's just me. I had reached a point with this team this year that if they had a lead close and late, they just find a way to win. Because they've been finding a way to win all year. They just have. And especially when you have the big threes being hit by Mack and Cooper down the stretch, you're like, okay, they're going to win. And obviously it didn't happen. We're going to get some Lamont Paris sound, Dawn Staley sound, and Mark Kingston sound on the show. You know, Lamont talked about the end of game, the fouling situation, some other breakdowns defensively. But yeah, it was like, wow, they actually lost that game. I didn't believe they would lose it until the clock had zeros. And there was a lot of things you look at. It wasn't just one thing. It was a multitude of things. I mean, you know, you can point at the Jacoby Wright pass to B.J. Mack, that inbound with a lead, with a 1-point lead. You don't want to throw that pass in that spot. Your guy's going to get automatically doubled. And you put him in a really bad situation because not only are you being doubled, but the baseline and the sideline out of bounds are both defenders as well. So really you're like being quadruple teamed. Just a bad place to throw the pass. Look, was LSU? I think LSU was fouling and it didn't get called, but the refs didn't lose South Carolina the game. South Carolina lost South Carolina that game. That should have been a W. Flat out should have been a W. You had that game in the palm of your hand. You had a 16-point lead in the second half against a team without their leading scorer. Their second-best scorer had 3 first-half fouls. It's just a game you should have won. And you did, and that's the first time this year we can really say that about the Gamecocks. It's not the end of the world. They're now not going to get knocked out of the NCAA tournament. They didn't tumble, in a lot of metrics. Obviously, you can't continue to lose. You've lost 2 straight for the first time all year. But look, to me, and I'm going to go really low, if you go 2-3 down the stretch, you're in. You just are. You got a tough schedule, a bunch of quad 1 games coming up. If you can pull 2 of the 5, you're in. 3-2 would be great. 2-3 is good enough. but you just can't go 0-5, obviously. But, a lot of folks, I mean, buddies of mine who Gamecock basketball fans, and that knee-jerk reaction for the Gamecock men is gloom and doom. I get it. Again, I had a couple buds, oh, it's over, season's over. Not going to win another game all year. That was the one. That got away, it's done. Whoa, slow down. NIT, here we come. Whoa, slow down. But it was a tough loss, but it's the first time all year they've had that game. To their credit. Typically, they close the deal on those. And they just didn't for the first time. And in a long season, you're going to have that game at some point. Now, the schedule, again, is not easy moving forward. You got to go to Ole Miss. You got to go to Mississippi State. You got to go to A&M. Your home games against a Tennessee team that wants to get revenge, they're going to be in a really bad mood when they show up at CLA. And a Florida team is playing great basketball. So it's not easy, but again, I feel like this is a good basketball team. They'll find a way to win 2 or 3 of the 5, and they will be in the tournament. And really, when you started the year, picked 14th in a 14-team league, if someone would have looked at you and said, this team will make the NCAA tournament, you'd be doing backflips. You would. I get expectation. Once this thing starts building and building and building, you're getting to number 11 in the country. Expectations start to get tweaked and turned and move up, and everybody's getting excited. And then when you lose a couple in a row, you get blown out at Auburn, and then you lose a game you should win at home against LSU, folks get a little nervous. I get it. I do. But I just believe this is a veteran squad. They've got a week off now to get it together, get back to some basics, get back to those fundamentals that made you so successful, and get ready to go to Ole Miss. Now, again, winning on the road's never easy in the SEC, but can you go to Ole Miss and win? Sure. Could you go to Starkville and win? Sure. Tennessee's not going to be easy. Again, they're looking to get back at you. Florida's been playing really well. Those games are both at home, where you've only lost 2 games all year. And then you go to A&M, where you don't know what's going to happen. Because A&M's got talent. They just can't get out of their own way. They just can't. That's a team that's got a bunch of quad 1 wins, but they've also lost to Vandy. So you just never know what person. It's like the movie Split. You got no idea what personality A&M's going to have when you show up. So we'll see where it goes, but I understand the gloom and doom. I understand the, oh my God, here comes the losing streaks. I get it. I do. But I think the South Carolina men's basketball team will be fine. And they'll get themselves in the NCAA tournament. And to me, that's a win this year in itself. Picked to where that team was picked to get to the dance will be a hell of an accomplishment. And obviously, what the women did on Sunday, beating Georgia, continuing that role, they got Tennessee here. Might be the toughest game left on the schedule, and then you get to the SEC tournament. We're going to hear some Dawn Staley. Again, we'll hear some Lamont Paris. Mark Kingston's got to be happy. The biggest question mark on the baseball team was the pitching staff. Pitching staff had a good weekend. Combined no-hitter on Sunday, where it felt like 30 different guys pitched. You got to start from Roman Kimball, I should say. Where Kimbrell is, I don't know. Roman Kimball. Also, you got some good pitching on Friday and Saturday. You scored a bunch of runs without hitting homers. You worked counts really well. Good plate discipline with 33 walks in a 3-game series. I get it. You're not playing an SEC opponent. Totally understand. But that was a good opening weekend to go 3-0 and to see some nice things from the baseball team. We'll get into all of it. And again, circle back with Sean Elliott, get some sound as Elliott was introduced to the media. Reintroduced, I should say. And, Sean Elliott was, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, was here for a great era of Gamecock football. South Carolina ran the ball real well. Elliott was a really important part of that. So I feel like this coaching staff for, the moves that had to be made, 2 guys left for head coaching gigs. I feel like the moves that had to be made to replace those guys were good moves, and you decide to make a change in the running back room with your position coach, and so you got a good guy there as well. So it feels like, the coaching staff, You brought in some more experienced guys, some guys who have got some real skins in the game, whether it's from the collegiate or pro level. It feels like it's the best you could have done in the situation you were in. It just does. And Sean Elliott brings a dynamic. Joe D brings a dynamic in the special teams room. You got James Coley, who has got a really nice resume. I feel like you've added guys who have been coordinators, been head coaches. It's about the best you could have done to upgrade your coaching staff, again, with a couple guys leaving to be head coaches. So we'll talk more about that as well through the show. We'll get to you on the Firehouse Sub text line, Love Chevy phone line, 803-404-6100. We'll yap with you as well. We got some contests going on here at the game. We have our Grand Slam giveaway from First Palmetto. Basically, remember the Lawyer Lisa special teams touchdown contest during football season? It's kind of the same thing. $25 gets put in the pot by First Palmetto before every game. And if a Gamecock hits a Grand Slam, whatever's in the pot, we'll draw a name and you win the money. If it continues on and on and on without a Grand Slam, the money builds and builds and builds, sort of like the special teams contest. And you constantly, every week, you got to requalify. And if the pot grows, we got to $1,000 in the special teams contest. That was cool. So it's the same premise, $25 a game. You go to 1075thegame.com, look for the Grand Slam giveaway on the little flippy thingy, that little promo media reel thing that moves in the top of the website. Once you see Grand Slam giveaway, click on that baby, fill out the form, take you about 36 seconds, bam, hit submit, and you're in. Also, we're doing a cool little contest for Clemson, South Carolina tickets for the Friday game at Founders March 1st. You just go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just, go to YouTube, hit the Game TV. It'll pop up in the search. You just scroll down, get it. You click, you subscribe. Then you go to 1075 The Game. You look for the Rivalry Friday ticket giveaway. You click there. You fill that little form out. Bam, you hit submit. You'll be in the running to get tickets for Carolina Clemson on that Friday at Founders. So 2 cool giveaways we're doing right now, and feel free to jump in and participate. All right, we'll get back in here. Talk some Sean Elliott, the new tight ends coach / running game coordinator, who is not new to this fan base. That's coming up next. Terry Ford hanging in for the halftime show. Ed Bird's here punching buttons up until 3 on the game.
the fans. I mean, the most passionate fan base you can have. That was something that we just didn't have a lot of at Georgia State, and I just, the support here in South Carolina is incredible. It's not matched a lot of places across the country, and the love that they have for the Gamecocks and the University of South Carolina is something that you just see. I mean, it's just evident every single day, everywhere you go.
That's Sean Elliott, presser earlier this morning, 11 a.m. with Shane Beamer. You heard it right here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. Hey, Sean Elliott talking about the fan base. I've been hanging around here now about 2.5 years, and yeah, I mean, the fan base here is massively passionate about the Gamecocks. The ups, the downs, the whole thing. They love South Carolina athletics. And, Sean Elliott, you didn't get that at Georgia State. But to be fair, it's a different vibe. In Atlanta and in the state of Georgia, pretty much it's Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, even Georgia Tech goes through it. So to be fair, there's a huge, a huge presence for Georgia Bulldog athletics, especially football. And everybody else is fighting for the crumbs. And when you're in a city that big, they're also looking at, like the Atlanta Braves. And if the Falcons are ever any good, they like the Falcons too. And every now and then they go, oh, we got an NBA team. That's right. Maybe we want to go to one of those games. But, yeah, the fan base passion here is fantastic. And you see it everywhere. And Sean Elliott, speaking of that and just how invested the fans are here, I'm telling you, a home game at night at Williams-Brice is a thing. I've been all over this country, one step ahead of the law. And I've seen many football games, pro and college, in many places. One of the best atmospheres at night is Williams-Brice. It is. That's a thing, man. It really is, in the words of the great philosopher Jay Phillips. All right, and Sean Elliott, what's he going to bring to the table? I think run game, that's one of the number one thing. Being run game coordinator, I'm not saying coaching tight ends isn't important. But, South Carolina, the way this team looks like it's going to be built, running the football is going to be much more important than we've seen in the last couple of years. Not to say it wasn't something that, the Gamecocks wanted to do. It's just they've had trouble doing it consistently. 2 years ago, well, really starting 3 years ago, there was a lack of consistency in Shane's first year. They'd have good games running it, then they would struggle a bit, then they go away from it, and then they come back to it. 2 years ago, I struggled out the gate. Then Marshawn Lloyd started to have some good games, and Lloyd got hurt. The running game kind of, got stuck in the mud. But then at the end of the year is when Spencer Rattler in the passing game went crazy in those wins over Tennessee and Clemson. And last year, the offensive line was just beat up and battered, and there's a ton of problems there. So you really didn't have a chance to run the ball because if your offensive line isn't good, I don't care if you got Barry Sanders and Jim Brown and Adrian Peterson, it doesn't matter. You can't run the ball. This year will be interesting. You've got 142 offensive linemen. You've got high-level recruits coming in. You got some couple of 3-stars and a couple of 4-stars and a high 3-star left over from last year. You have got also some guys coming back from injury. You've got other vets returning. It feels like you should be able to put together a solid offensive line from what you have. You've totally upgraded your running back room. And if Rocket Sanders is healthy, you've got an all-SEC caliber running back. And you've got a quarterback who can use his legs to make plays in the run game. Either one, no matter who the starter is. We all think it's Lenora Sellers, but Robbie Ashford, he's known for making plays with his legs more than he is for throwing the football. It feels like running the ball is going to be of a greater importance because you don't have Spencer Rattler. And you've got a young quarterback. Either you have a young quarterback, who's shown some ability in small doses but is unproven, or you have a quarterback who is more of a veteran but has had issues consistently throwing the football. So either way, it feels like the running game is going to take up a notch of importance as we move forward. And Sean Elliott will totally help out in that regard. And with Dow Loggins, we saw, for me personally, a much better, more cohesive passing offense last year than we saw under the previous offensive coordinator. Run game, you really don't know because you didn't really get a fair opportunity to get a gauge at it because, again, the offensive line scuffled. So at the end of the day, Sean Elliott will only help your run game because, remember, guy was an offensive line coach. So we'll see. I think it's going to be nothing but positive moving forward. Offensive running game for South Carolina. All right, also over the weekend, the women, hard-fought win over Georgia. Georgia had the lead at halftime. A ton of threes were shot in the first half by South Carolina. Didn't really get the ball inside. Georgia ran a zone. South Carolina had issues dealing with it. And here is Dawn Staley, cut 11, Dave, why there were so many three-point attempts in the first half against that Georgia zone.
We fell for the bait. We took the bait. All open shots aren't good shots, okay? All open rush shots aren't good shots. I just felt like it took us a while to understand what they were doing, even though we tried to prep them over the past 2 days. But when it's real and when it's working, and it was working for them, you tend to take the bait. Yes, we were 17 of our 25 shots were from three. We had to flip it. And once we did, we found ourselves getting ourselves back into the game and taking the lead and holding on for a win.
It took the bait, the zone. I always say this about zone defenses in basketball. I don't know why more teams don't use them. Because players today just don't run against zone. And when you get zone, it's like, oh, my God. And players just, they stand around. They shoot threes. They're not, looking at how to attack a zone. They don't understand even if they understand, they just don't move at times. Because, again, that's what a zone does. Like Dawn said, you take the bait. You don't cut the baseline. You don't cut the free throw line. There's also openings on the wings where you can dribble, penetrate, and dribble drive. And if you're penetrating a zone in those areas and you got a dude cutting the baseline, you get easy layups and dunks and things of that nature. Or if you move the ball around a zone from side to side, you can get open looks because, again, if you're moving the ball, defenses can't keep up with the ball if it's moving. But it's just human nature. You play against a zone, and everybody just stops. And you start chucking threes because that's what the zone's giving you. The zone is taking away your inside game and daring you to shoot threes. And look, South Carolina, they can get you from the perimeter this year. Much better perimeter team offensively, but they just weren't making them, and they were settling for them. And so, like Dawn said, you fell for the bait. But the good news is South Carolina gets a W, and they now move forward. Still undefeated overall and undefeated in the SEC, and they can clinch the SEC regular season title and the number one seed in the tournament coming up this week. All right, again, go to 1075thegame.com, register for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. Every game, $25 gets added to the pot. If a Gamecock hitter does rip a Grand Slam, you can win all the cash in the pot. Again, it's from our buddies at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union, the Grand Slam giveaway. Go to 1075 The Game right now and register. We'll get back in here. What did Mark Kingston have to say about a good weekend for Gamecock baseball? We'll let you hear the ball coach next here on the Halftime Show on The Game. What we're talking about, a bunch of stuff. We got Gamecock basketball, men's and women, Gamecock baseball over the weekend with Mark Kingston and the crew sweeping 3 from Miami of Ohio. And we'll start with that because we've talked about the women. We got into the men's game, and we'll get back to that, obviously. Let's get to the baseball. A sweep of Miami of Ohio, 33 walks for the offense. Only 2 homers with all the runs scored, so it's good to see generating offense without having just to rely on the long ball because the long ball is going to come with this squad. The pitching was really good, which is the biggest question mark coming into the year. So here's Mark Kingston, our buddy David Adair stepping in for Ed Bird. Dave, hit cut 16 for me, Mark, talking about Sunday.
Yeah, well, I'd like to start by saying how great it was to have Roman Kimball back out there after all of his long rehab, his work with the athletic trainers and the doctors and pitching coach. Just really great to see him out there and do well. Again, the crowd was great all weekend, including today. Really appreciate that and all that support. So overall, it was a great day for us. You throw a no-hitter, you score 14 runs, play errorless baseball. Hard to ask for more than that.
Ain't that the truth? Okay, you want runs scored, you get 14. You want good pitching, you throw a no-hitter. Defensively, no errors and no plays where you went, ooh. Because sometimes you make a play, you go, ooh, and it gets ruled a hit. So South Carolina, pretty clean all the way around in 3 phases on Sunday. Plus, you get the sweep, you're feeling good. Now, we will have Carolina baseball 3:45 today against Winthrop. So pregame, again, 3:45, first pitch, 4 o'clock. Right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and also 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. So here's Coach Kingston talking about, we said, the question mark of this team is pitching. Here's Mark talking about the pitching staff on Sunday.
Yeah, Ty Good was great today. It was his first outing as a Gamecock. Also for Pitzer, for Marlott, for Dean. I mean, that's great to see. You want to have depth, and they showed that today. That today may have been our best outing all weekend. So it's great to see.
And, when you see some of the pitchers that you're hoping Roman Kimball will be a part of your weekend starting rotation. That's what you're hoping for. You had a good start from Eli Jones as well, and you're going to see what Matthew Becker's going to do. You're looking around here with who are going to be your weekend guys, who are going to be your midweek guys. So that's another thing that, Mark talked about was, and we'll get to this one, Dave, cut 25 in a second about the midweek starters. You got to have those midweek arms. 2 years ago, we saw what happened in the midweek with the Gamecocks. How there was midweek losses because you just didn't have any pitching depth. Hopefully this year, not only do you have your weekend starters locked down, but you'll be able to have at least 1, if not 2 guys who can start in that midweek, to help you, get good starts and get ahead and then hand it to the bullpen to hold leads in the midweek because those are games typically you want to pack in as W's. Here's cut 25. Kingston talking about the midweek starting situation for this week because there are 2 midweek games.
I think you'll probably see a lot of what you saw today and a little bit of yesterday. I still think we don't have a defined midweek guy yet. So I think we need to look at it and continue to give guys the ball and see if anybody really develops into that. But no, I don't have an announced starter for you right now, and we may not till probably midday Monday, I would guess.
Well, if you look at it, you saw Jones, Eskew started Saturday, then you had Kimball on Sunday. Kimball obviously on a pitch count coming back from, Tommy John. Matthew Becker didn't pitch, had a lat injury. So there's some pieces there. You got 4 guys there. And obviously 3 of them will be your weekend. You're hoping 1 can, roll into being a midweek starter and see what else you have as you move forward. But you can see, the starter, bullpen, pitching staff, all on hands, staff game today, I'm guessing against Winthrop and possibly, tomorrow as well. So it's a work in progress, but you see the pieces that might be forming. Against early, you can't make too much out of sweeping Miami of Ohio. But you did feel good about the arms and how they perform. Now, obviously, you're going to go into higher level offenses. We know that's coming. But you had to be happy with the small sample size you saw over the weekend against Miami of Ohio, offensively and on the mound. And offensively, look again, you draw 33 walks. I don't care if you know, Nuke LaLoosh is pitching and he knocks the mascot out. You're not swinging at bad pitches. You're having, you know, you're working counts. You're having good ABs. You're forcing the pitcher to throw in the zone. There's nothing bad about, you know, going through 3 games, taking that many walks. You had only a couple of homers. Ethan Petrie hit them both. But you're going to hit bombs. This team is going to go yard its share. But to know you can put together games where you can score a bunch of runs without having to hit home runs, you're more versatile in offense. You can do more things. You can, you know, again, be productive without relying on the long ball so much. So those are good signs over the weekend for South Carolina baseball. And again, today, 3:45 against Winthrop. Pregame 3:45 with Stewart and with Derek, 4 o'clock first pitch over at Founders, Winthrop in South Carolina. All right, this just popped that the College Football Playoff Committee has approved the 5+7 model to the shock of no one. The Board of Managers voted today unanimously to revise the format of the 12-team event to include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and the 7 at-large bids, adjusting from that 6+6, because let's face it, you don't have a Pac-12 anymore. Pac-12 named a commissioner, which I find pretty entertaining. We'll get to that later in the show, but right now the College Football Playoff went to the 5-7 model. Basically, it's for the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, and the highest-rated conference champion out of the group of 5 schools, and you get your 7 at-large. And that's the way this thing is going to go. Which, again, no-brainer, makes a ton of sense as you move forward. We'll see where the College Football Playoff goes after 2025. I get the feeling that the SEC and the Big Ten, again, you know, you probably figured this out yourself if you're a college football fan, which you most likely are, that they're going to go, let's scrap this whole thing and just go with the 11 highest rated teams deemed by whatever you're going to use, College Football Playoff Committee, whatever entity, and then we'll throw a bone to the group of 5 and give them a slot. Highest rated group of 5 team gets in, and then the top 11 in the rankings. And then we're going to roll. Because that's in the best interest of the SEC and Big Ten, but you're not giving away that seat at the table for the underdog. Now, the Big 12 and the ACC aren't going to like it, even though they're going to get in. I believe every year the College Football Playoff, if you look at like the top 11, the Big 12 and the ACC have been repped. So it's not like they won't be. They would get a seat at the table as well, just not as many as the SEC and the Big Ten. Because that's what the SEC and the Big Ten want. They want as many bids as they can get, especially the SEC. The Big Ten, I mean, what would you got last year? You got Ohio State and Penn State. And really, that's all. You know, occasionally over the years, Wisconsin's been very competitive. Michigan State had a small run. And Minnesota one year won double-digit games. But, you know, typically the Big Ten's not going to get a huge amount of teams in the college football playoff besides maybe the Big 3 in the league. So and we'll see what Michigan's going to be now that Jim Harbaugh leaves. Look, Michigan before Harbaugh, let's face it, not the same as Michigan with Harbaugh, especially these last 3 seasons. And Harbaugh, for a while, who knew if Harbaugh was going to become what Harbaugh became at Michigan the last 3 years? So to automatically think Michigan is just going to be a college football playoff contender year in and year out, I don't know, maybe. They got a lot going for them to where they should be. But there's been times Michigan's gone through years where they're not even sniffing that kind of air, you know? We'll see what Sherrod Moore can do. But that just came out, College Football Playoff Committee. The Board of Managers approved the 5+7 model. All right, again, we got a cool contest happening here. The other one, we talk about the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. The other one is if you want tickets for Clemson, South Carolina, on Rivalry Friday, March 1st, Gamecocks and Tigers, you go to our YouTube page first. It's the Game TV. Just go to YouTube, search the Game TV, real easy. Once you get the Game TV, you click there, you subscribe. Then you go fill out the form on 1075thegame.com. And again, it takes like less than a minute. And then you'll be eligible to win the tickets for South Carolina Clemson Friday at Founders for Rivalry Weekend. So we got that contest going on as well. All right, we'll get back in here. Firehouse Sub Text the Hour. I'll try to get one of those cooking. Also, we'll get back to our conversation about what happened against LSU for the South Carolina men on Saturday. That's coming up. Halftime show, Terry Ford rolling, Captain Dave punching buttons for us up until 3 here on The Game. All right, we'll get to the Firehouse Subtext the hour here in just a minute, 803-404-6100. Halftime show, Terry Ford Glad you can be hanging. Captain Dave is here punching the buttons for us for a little bit. Then we'll have Elijah punch some buttons. See, the last thing you want is me punching buttons. I do it, and I do it poorly, and things just go sideways. So I'm the last guy that we need punching buttons. So we got Dave doing it. Elijah will help out Dave in a little bit as we roll until 3 here on the game. Terry Ford rolling solo. Tyler will be back tomorrow, and like I said earlier, unless he got a gig in the pits at Daytona, because Tyler would take that in a heartbeat. All right, like I said, we'll get to our Firehouse Subtext the hour at 803-404-6100 here shortly. One thing, though, as we go back to the, again, the men's basketball game on Saturday, tough loss against LSU, a game that really South Carolina should have won, just flat out. You got the game won, and you don't execute at the end. Some situations you've been executing all year, by the way. And you end up losing a game that should have been a W for you. First time all year it's happened, to be fair, and it happened. Look, it's going to happen in a long season. You play enough close games, you're going to lose. You're going to lose one or two before it's over with. I always say, if you run back and forth across I-20, eventually you get hit by a car. And South Carolina, they've been dodging cars all year in close games late. They've been executing and getting the win. They got clipped. They got clipped by the truck on Saturday. Part of the end game situation was fouling, which South Carolina did not do at the end of the game. And here's Lamont Paris, cut for Dave, talking about the whole fouling situation down the stretch versus LSU.
Just to be honest with you, we had talked about fouling. We had talked multiple times coming down the stretch that it just was that kind of game. Both teams had fouls to give, which was a little strange, but we had fouls to give, and we talked. We talked about what we wanted to do. We had 2 possessions, actually. We had 2 possessions that we had specifically, one right after a timeout, talked about that we would foul and what that would look like and when to do it and how to do it. And it just, again, that's the responsibility that I'll take in this whole thing, is that somewhere it was lost in translation, somewhere between the huddle and then the floor. And even from my gesturing to foul to it actually happening. So we'll have to get back to the drawing board on that. But that was one of the situations that I'm talking about, and just some of our decisions. But there were certainly some defensive ones even before that.
That's Lamont talking about the fouling and not fouling at the end of the game. And even the John Sunvolt, who was doing the analysis, even said at one point, Lamont was gesturing for the guys to foul, and they didn't. And so I was ready for Lamont to run the court and foul somebody for them. But, again, and Lamont took responsibility in that cut, and that's what you do as the head coach. You take responsibility. Even when your players don't do what you want them to do, you got to say, hey, obviously I did not communicate it correctly to my team. That's called manning up. Something that Rick Pitino didn't do over the weekend that we're going to get to before we get out of here. You always got to take responsibility at the end of the day because you're the leader. And you might have told them 5 times in the huddle. But if they didn't do it, then you got to sit back and say, okay, why didn't they do it? How can I communicate that better to where the next time we're in this situation, they do it? And that's just what, again, you do when you're the coach. The old saying, the buck stops here. Fair or not, the buck stops there. Why they didn't foul, I don't know. And one time LSU went in and got a layup out of it. Because the guys were everybody was a little unsure what was going on. So that hurt. And when you're in a game like this, a 1-point game, that's one of the things. Is why you lost? No. But does it contribute to you losing? Yes. Many little things contributed to that loss. End of the first half. When Jordan Wright cuts through everybody and lays it up for an easy deuce, and everybody just stood there and looked at each other like, I thought you had him. What just happened here? That's a thing. You know, when your offense goes clunky and some guys are taking shots they shouldn't, like, I love Josh Gray. He's an effort guy. I love what he brings to the table in the paint, near the basket. Yes, does Josh Gray have some moments where you go, oh my God, what was that? But he also has been very productive at times in helping South Carolina be successful this year. But Josh Gray shooting jumpers from the free throw line is not what you ever want, ever. Difficult, off balance, turnaround, fadeaway, 2-point shots. You don't want those. They're very difficult. There were moments on offense that you go, what was that? You had a very slow start till you had to take the lead. Then you get a 16-1 run. You're getting the ball inside. You're moving the ball well. Then all of a sudden, a lot of that stopped. And you put yourself behind the 8 ball on offense. And then defensively, look, a team as good on defense as South Carolina should not blow a 16-point lead in the second half. You just shouldn't. But there were some breakdowns on defense. There were some times, the three-point shooter nobody got a hand in the three-point shooter's face, and they got an open look. There was some blockout stuff. We're going to have Lamont Paris talk about that here in a minute as well. It's very interesting. So a lot of that happened in the game as well. So it was a multitude of things. You don't just lose one off of one thing in one play. And we're going to get to the Firehouse Subtext of the hour in our next segment. A basketball-related one we'll get to. It's kind of interesting. At 803-404-6100. Then after that, it's football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. All right, it's a halftime show. Terry Ford rolling this sucker solo today up until 3 here on The Game. Oh, it's football, 1 o'clock hour here on the halftime show on the game. Terry Ford hanging today. Tyler, our buddy Tyler, should be back tomorrow from Daytona. He was, I do believe, working the pit for William Byron, as William Byron won the Daytona 500. All right, real quick, Firehouse Sub text the hour. We do have a football text I want to get to since it's football. And the texter was discussing, again, the run game and getting the run game going. It's all well and good. But South Carolina, they should also remember they need to, first and foremost, stop the run. Very important this year. And defend the pass over the top. So those two things are still vital as we all talk about the offense. And, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that last year, especially trying to cover slot receivers was an issue. It was an issue pretty much the entire season. Now, they tweaked some stuff in November. It got better, but still covering slot receivers, that was a deal. When they went to that 3-3-5 defense, and they also started playing some more zone on the back end to protect the safeties and the slot corners who were basically, to be honest, struggling. That was just a struggle. You're putting guys in a position that they really couldn't succeed. You didn't have, remember, the year before you had three corners. And you could move, a Cam Smith or Darius Rush or whoever could slide in there and cover a slot receiver. You didn't have that last year. You had safeties and nickels trying to cover that slot receiver, and it just wasn't working. So then that tweak happened with the 3-3-5, started playing a little bit more zone, and it got better. And the defense got better. But yes, the line of scrimmage has to improve for South Carolina on both sides of the ball. That includes the defensive side. Got to get better. We talk about this all the time. Look at the successful teams in college football. We can talk about points scored. We can talk about fancy passing games. We can talk about, big plays by defensive backs. All those things, yes, they're important. They're fun. They're great for highlights. But at the end of the day, it's still the same old boring, win the line of scrimmage, and you can win big. Michigan, about as exciting as watching people clip their toenails. Who won the national title? Michigan. Why? You couldn't beat them at the line of scrimmage. Both sides of the ball. You look at what Georgia did, winning back-to-back. Couldn't beat them at the line of scrimmage. Alabama's success for all the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the running backs and all that stuff, that was like a lot of fun and eye candy. And that was great. The scoreboard was flipping, but Alabama won the line of scrimmage. You got to get to the point where every Saturday you're beating the hell out of the other team at the line of scrimmage. That's the key to the whole thing. So, yes, Texter, you are not wrong. Got to stop the run, and you got to stop the big play over the top. Those two things will be vital moving forward defensively. And we'll see how much 3-3-5's played this year. Last year, the talent on hand, that worked. And give credit to the coaching staff for the tweak, because Shane talked about it. He sat down, had the conversation, just like the year before with Marcus Satterfield. Had the conversation. Clayton, it ain't working, brother. We got to do something. And so Clayton's like, well, how about this? Shane was like, okay. And that 3-3-5 worked. Now we'll see moving forward if they continue down that road, if that's still the best defense for the players they have on hand. But hopefully one of these young corners can step up, whether it's a Vakari Swain, Judge Collier, whoever, can step in and maybe help out in the nickel. Because last year, the safeties, it was a struggle. It was just a struggle covering the slot. And no offense to Nick Amenwari or any of the other safeties. It's just not the skill set that they have, is to be able to cover that little teeny, little quick, shifty slot guy as he runs all over the field. It's just not it's just not right now in their DNA. Maybe they get better next year. Maybe they improve. You hope so. But someone's got to be able to line up on the slot if you're going man in 2024. That is a thing to go along with winning the line of scrimmage. So appreciate the text, the Firehouse Sub text line 803-404-6100. Again, football in the 1 o'clock hour here on the game. We'll get to some Sean Elliott, Sean and Shane doing the presser at 11 a.m. Reintroducing Sean Elliott as the tight ends coach / run game coordinator. Yes, Sean was the offensive line coach his last stint. But when you're the run game coordinator, you know who you work with? Offensive line coach. running back coach. You're coordinating the run game with those rooms. So, I mean, yes, Sean will have input over a lot of things being the run game coordinator. Also helps out Dow Loggins. We saw how good Dow Loggins drew up the passing game last year, especially with an offensive line that was beat up and couldn't protect Spencer Rattler. Remember, all the wide receivers got hurt too. So it wasn't just the offensive line. The offensive line had injury problems, and the wide receivers had injury problems. And oh, by the way the running back thing shook out, you were looking at either an ex-quarterback / wide receiver, now / running back, or a dude that was playing Division II. So with all that going on, I thought the passing game was put together pretty well by Dow Loggins. And I'm sure if Dow Loggins has a healthy offensive line and a better running game, the passing game will even be more efficient. But Sean Elliott can help out as the run game coordinator to free Dow up with maybe some other tweaks in the passing game as well. So all good. I think it's just, there's nothing negative of bringing in Sean Elliott. Plus, I want to see if he headbutts guys with helmets. The Sean Elliott videos, man. My man is intense. He is intense. You know, and Elijah's here now. Elijah, you're going to go to press conferences. He might headbutt you at a press conference.
Well, I wouldn't need any caffeine if I had Sean Elliott to headbutt me every morning when I woke up to make sure that I was ready for game time.
He
I don't have to worry
is
about that anymore.
an intense cat. There's no doubt about it.
Disappointed there were no headbutts in the press conference, or at
I was
least none that we
surprised.
heard.
Look, David Cloninger getting the first question. Elliott just didn't go up to him and just headbutt him. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Bam.
There's your answer.
So you bring intensity. And, you know, we talked about this. We did our little year-end spiel where we get all the hosts together in a room and shut the door and we all just talk. And it was Jay and Preston and Bill and myself. And one of the things we brought up in the construction of the coaching staff, it was like, you know, Shane's got a lot of guys, you know, a lot of love and joy and positivity and a lot of hugs and a lot of that, and all that stuff's great. But you need a couple of those old school intense dudes that still carry their bike shorts around and, you know, they've got stains on their shirt and, you know, maybe they sleep in their car. I don't know. Or like Walter Matthau from Bad News Bears, but sober and not drinking. And just, you know, guys who have that old school mentality, you know, the gruff kind of guy. Nothing's ever good enough, even if it is really good. Do it again. Why? It wasn't perfect. But it was really good. Yeah, but it wasn't good enough. And a Sean Elliott and a Joe D, those guys can bring some of that mentality to go with a lot of what the younger, newer age type of coaches have on Shane's staff. So I think that's a nice little mix to throw in there. You need that little gruff old school dude who likes nothing, but you love him because you know he loves you in his way, and he is always looking out for your best interest, and his goal is to make you better. Even though he's very gruff when he does it, you know, a lot of us have relatives like that. We've all got uncles like that. You know, always whine and moan about something. Nothing you do is good enough, but he loves you. He gives you a hug. And when he does tell you did something good, it's like, oh my God, Uncle Gruff said I did something good. I can't believe it. It's always good to have a couple of those. Uncle Gruff is not a bad guy to have around. When he's looking out for your best interest, he's trying to make you a better player, person, whatever. So I like the construction of the staff. Nothing against the guys who were on the staff last year at all. But I like, because again, Pete Limbo left to be a head coach. Jody Wright left to be a head coach. I mean, they weren't let go, but you had to replace people. Justin Stepp decided to leave when he got shuffled from wide receiver coach to tight end coach. Those guys weren't let go. They moved on to bigger or better things, or things that they thought fit what they wanted to do. And that's fine. I think the construction of the staff is very interesting, a little bit more versatility to it with some, you know, a couple guys with some old school in them. And there's nothing wrong with that to go with the new school, new age type of coaching staff that also Shane has. Plus, you know, Shane's about love and joy and happiness and everything. I mean, Shane will get after you, but he's also, there's a lot of positivity there. So it's good to bring in a couple of, like, you know, older school guys who spit a lot. Do it again. Nothing wrong with that. It's a nice little mix to the staff. So we'll have some more Sean Elliott sound between now and 3 o'clock as we talk more about the new tight end / run game coordinator, who, of course, is not really new to you as a Gamecock fan. And if you didn't hear the college football playoff, what do they call themselves? Managers? I think that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's what they were called. They're calling themselves managers. The College Football Board of Managers earlier today voted unanimously to revise the format for the 12-team college football playoff. It will now, instead of the old 6-6 model, which was okayed when the Pac-12 wasn't the Pac-2, now is moved to a 5-7 model because, again, there is no Pac-12. It might be a Pac-12 in name, but it's not a power league anymore. It's now just two teams in the corner of the country who couldn't get to the other power conferences yet. We'll see where it goes. Is it going to be a Mountain West thing with the two Pac-12 teams at some point? They rename themselves the Pac-12? I don't know. But Pac-12 is going to try to stay alive in some way, shape, or form. It's just not a power league. This is a no-brainer to go to 5-7. Now, the four power leagues, the highest-ranked four power conference champions will get a spot, and then the highest-rated group of five conference champion will get a spot. Then you got 7 at-larges. So not a surprise at all that this would happen. So that's the beginning of football brought to you by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Again, for 40 years, Atlantic Windows and Doors have been giving the Midlands the best quality and the best selection of windows and doors. AWDSC.com, Atlantic Windows and Doors. Dreamy Josh, our ticket guru, just told me that we have tickets to give away for the Winthrop game tonight at Founders. So we'll be giving away this hour a couple pair and try to give away a couple pair also next hour to get some tickets out there. So we'll do that here in just a few minutes, so get ready. We'll give away a couple of... matter of fact, Elijah, you ready? You off the phone?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's let it rip.
Let's give away a couple pair of tickets right now. 2 pair to callers 5 and 6 who want to go to the game this afternoon, 3:45 pre, 4 o'clock first pitch. Callers 5 and 6 each get a pair of tickets to go see South Carolina Winthrop. That is this afternoon, 803-404-6100. We'll take callers 5 and 6. If you want to go this afternoon, I know it's 1:15, but hey, give us a ring and we'll get you in right now, 803-404-6100. Again, caller number 5 and caller number 6. Caller number 5 gets a pair. Caller number 6 gets a pair. We'll do it again next hour as well. Or maybe later this hour because we got to get rid of the tickets. Game starts at 4. So call right now and you can be a winner. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, our buddy Elijah, I'm going to give you a case of beer to pay you for all this today.
Hey, that sounds fantastic.
Does that work for you?
I've never turned a case of beer down, ever. That's a streak. That's a Cal Ripken-esque streak. I have to
am
this
so not
day.
surprised you're the Iron Man of brew.
Never turn it down.
The Cal
Never take a day
Ripken of
off.
beer. So call right now and you'll get possibly a pair of tickets for today's game against Winthrop. Halftime show. We'll come back, continue football, and more football here. And by the way, we will talk about the Pac-12. They did name a new commissioner, which is hilarious. We'll get to that next here on The Game. Football in the 1 o'clock hour here on the game. Terry Ford hanging out with you. Elijah's punching buttons because I promised him beer. And
It's a good way to get me to do anything. I'm easily brought.
hey, Elijah, can you help us out? No, man, I'm really busy. I got beer. Okay, what do you need?
All right, say less. I'll be there in 5. Don't even tell me what it is. I'll show up.
It doesn't matter as long as there's beer involved. If I took like beer and I tied it to the back bumper of my car, you would chase me for miles.
I would, yeah, like a dog. I would absolutely. It is very Pavlovian at this point that if I hear the word beer, I'm going to partake in something, whether I enjoy the activity or not.
Oh, man. So Elijah's hanging out with us, helping out. Ed Bird a little under the weather. He had to pop out. Dave jumped in for a bit. Now Elijah's here, and then he'll hang out with Jay till 6. You want more beer to do that, or are you good?
That was part of the deal originally, I thought. Mostly because it was a necessity. I think we've actually gotten that as a write-off.
That's right. All right, so we're hanging here at the 1 o'clock hour. Football, and more football brought to you by Atlantic Windows and Doors. I'm trying not to laugh about this because I do also feel sorry for them. But the Pac-12, the 2-pack.
Minus 10.
Yes, that's what it should be. The Pac-12 minus 10 has named a commissioner. And it's a former deputy commissioner, Teresa Gould, will now be the commissioner starting on March 1st. You're saying, Terry, what is she commissioning? Washington State and Oregon State. The funniest part of this, I'm trying again, depending on your perspective, how funny it is. The funniest part of this is she was voted in 2-0. And in the story, she was appointed by the presidents of Washington State and Oregon State, who make up the Pac-12. Oh, I just knocked out my head buds. I'm laughing so much. Oh, I feel bad for the league. I really do. It's a legendary, historic league that got cratered over mismanagement and stupidity and money, lack thereof. And this should have never happened. And this just shows you the awful state that we are in college athletics when you lose a conference that iconic over TV deals. That just shows you a problem. But that being said, this is funny. The Pac-12 minus 10, like Elijah said, the Pac-2, the 2-pack, the 2-pac, whatever you want to call it, in a vote of 2-0, have put in their commissioner, Teresa Gould. Now, in all seriousness, for a minute, look, the Pac-12 wants to continue being a power conference. I get it. I would want to as well. But you saw what happened earlier today. If you didn't hear, the College Football Playoff Committee has gone from the 6+6 model to the 5+7 because of the Pac-12 is, in their mind, is gone. And that's only for a couple years. I mean, the world, all is not over. If you're the Pac-12, you're sitting around going, in the words of the great Lloyd Christmas, so you mean there's a chance? Not really, but I guess if you want to go long shot, you keep these two teams, Washington State and Oregon State, and you find a way to bring in, it's easy to say take the Mountain West. But really, is the Mountain West plus Washington State and Oregon State going to keep you as a Power 5 league? Say it with me, no. So if you're the Pac-12, you got to find something that's going to push the needle to have you stay as a Power 5 league. Good luck. Unless you can, I don't know. You know where there aren't, you know where the Disney and Fox hasn't been, Elijah? Mars, Saturn. Maybe if you can find markets outside Earth in the solar system that the SEC and the Big Ten haven't poached yet, maybe you can find some markets big enough on Mars and Saturn. But besides that, can we do some goofy Lost in Space stuff or Star Wars? Where are you going to add schools that either are in big markets or have brand recognition or push the needle somehow to keep you as a league? I can't think of it, my man. I don't know about you.
I heard the triple option is still very popular in Venus.
Huge market. By the way, University of Venus, big brand.
Huge brand, just sleeping giant.
Bananarama had a great song about it. It's just, I mean, look, you're dead, you're gone. But I get trying. God love you. You're going to try. I understand it. You're going to look around the Sun Belt and Conference USA and whoever else. And okay, because the Big 12 did that. The Big 12 didn't get the University of Cincinnati. And yes, they have been good at football under Brian Kelly. And a couple years ago, they're in the college football playoff. So it's not saying they're a good, solid program. But they were brought in because they're in the city of Cincinnati, which is still to this day, a top 30 market. Why do you think Central Florida was brought in? The gigantic city they're in. Why do you think Houston was brought in? Hell, the favorite college football team in the University of Houston is the University of Texas. But Houston was brought in because they're in the city of Houston, which is a top 10 market. So you see what the Big 12 was doing, right? And then they added BYU because they're a gigantic regional entity out west. And if you don't understand the power of BYU, go hang out in the western part of the country for a little bit. It's not just going on in Utah. I worked in Seattle. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is well represented in the state of Washington, well represented in the state of Idaho, well represented in the state of Oregon. It's a thing all over that region. It's gigantic. So that's why BYU is in the Big 12.
Not just a market, it's a religion.
No, it's not. It's a religion, and it is big. And by the way, very rich. So that's why BYU's in. So the Big 12 was strategic in who they added for those reasons, because that helps their TV deal. It's not going to give them an SEC TV deal or a Big Ten TV deal, but it helps their TV deal. Who's the Pac-12 going to go get? You know, I haven't done this exercise. We're going to hit a break and come back, and we will scan the world of college football and see if there's anybody that the Pac-12 can add to make them a thing. I'm already going to tell you my answer. Top of my head, no. There's nothing. Zero. But, you know, it's football, brought to you by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We're in the 1 o'clock hour. What the heck? Let's do a little thought exercise off the top of our head and riff a bit about what, in God's name, the Pac-2, the 2-pack, the Pac-12 minus 10, whatever you want to call this thing, what they can do to try to stay relevant. My guess is nothing. We'll give it a shot, though. Terry Ford hanging out with you. Elijah's filling in here, helping us out up until 3 here on the game. (803-875-MENS) Men's Clinic of South Carolina. 803-875-MENS. Look, you felt weird long enough. Your sleep stinks. Your exercising stinks. Your bouncing back from exercising stinks. You're tired of forgetting where you set your keys. Your drive for life, professionally, personally, sexually, whatever it is, isn't what it used to be. You can sit around and just worry about it, act like it's not happening, do what I do when something's broken in my car, turn the radio up, or you can go and find out what could be going on. A free confidential consultation at the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. It could just be low testosterone. If it is, they'll put you on a program that helps you feel like you again. Just please do it. 803-875-MENS, Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Start feeling better, feeling like you again. All right, we are going football in the 1 o'clock hour on the halftime show. And so we decided, for the heck of it, since we're in the middle of football. And coming up here in just a few minutes, we'll get you some Sean Elliott cuts. Sean, of course, reintroduced to the media and the fan base today by Shane, as Sean comes in now as the tight end coach / run game coordinator. All right, Elijah, let's do this. Let's play the game. All right, so we're looking who could the Pac-12. Remember, where you're at in the country doesn't matter anymore. Because, again, Southern Cal's in the Big Ten. They will go 3,000 miles to play Rutgers in volleyball. So any rhyme or reason or common sense or logic, let's throw it out the window. And I'm just sitting here on the top of my head trying to go through what could save the Pac-12. All right, I'm here looking at the American Athletic Conference, and you help me. If I miss a team that's already been poached by somebody, because somebody could be poached as we speak.
That's how fast this happens.
All right, SMU is rolling off to the ACC for free, correct?
Yes.
That shows you the state of college athletics right there.
And the desperation of some schools just to be in a power conference.
All right, so we will look at the American Athletic. Tulane is in New Orleans. Not a gigantic market. University of Texas San Antonio is in San Antonio. I figured that out by myself. San Antonio is a pretty good-sized market.
Solid.
So there's one right there. Memphis is a top 50 market. Doesn't push the needle like bigger markets, but it is a top 50 market, right?
And they care a little bit about football.
Yeah, I mean, they're a big basketball town, but their football team has been solid to good.
When they're good, they get support.
Yes. All right. South Florida, where are they at?
They're in Tampa. I was thinking
Tampa, Orlando. I know when you look South Florida, Central Florida. So they're in a
swap it up all the time.
Big market.
Mm-hmm. Huge market.
Rice is in Houston. Just saying. No one, I mean, again, Rice isn't, again, in the city of Houston, Rice is behind Texas A&M, and Houston. But again, we're just talking about market size. Birmingham, I mean, it's not gigantic, but it's like a top 50, 60 market, right? In TV, I think.
And that gets reasonable support.
Yeah. Charlotte's in Charlotte. Nobody in Charlotte even knows there's a college football team in Charlotte, but Charlotte's Charlotte.
An NFL team in Charlotte.
Well, could the Charlotte football team beat the Charlotte Panthers? Just saying.
Close. Pretty close.
Temple is in Philly. Most people in Philly forget Temple's even in Philly. And at one time, Temple was a very good basketball school. Matt Rule has some success there in football. It's in Philly. I'm just saying. So there, I just looking at the Atlantic, the American Athletic. You got some schools in some decent to big markets. None of them are like wow in their cities, like Texas San Antonio college football. I'm not saying people don't care, but they care more about the San Antonio Spurs than anything, and the Riverwalk. But these are big-ish type of markets. Do you look outside the Mountain West and start saying, do we look at markets like that to try to pull somebody or poach somebody? Because look, the Mountain West, look, I worked in Boise. I like Boise State football. There is a spot in my heart for that blue turf. It's like Market 100. It's not a big recruiting base at all for high school football talent. And really, not to be mean, they're not what they were with Chris Peterson. With Chris Peterson, I mean, people forget something. They were an Alabama win and a Boise State win over Nevada over possibly playing for the national championship in the Kellen Moore era, Chris Peterson era. They're not that anymore. They're just not. I mean, San Jose's in San Jose. It's a decent-sized city, but it's San Jose. UNLV's in Vegas. And, hey, Vegas is blowing up, right? So Vegas, Air Force is in Colorado Springs, if my memory serves me. Top 100 type market. Wyoming is Wyoming. Fresno State, again, Fresno. Utah State is close enough to Salt Lake City where you want to call it Salt Lake City, even though it's not, but still. Honolulu is cool. It's, again, a top 100 market, but it's 16 time zones away. Colorado State's in Fort Collins, not a big market. Reno, not a big market. San Diego, there you go. So, not a lot of big stuff going on. And the biggest city in the state of New Mexico is Albuquerque. And again, Albuquerque is a big-ish type market, top 100, but it doesn't like go, wow, we got to get Albuquerque.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really saying we got to get our TV package in Albuquerque, New Mexico to keep our conference.
I mean, so there, I just went through the American Athletic, went through the Mountain West. There's nothing there that's going to say to the powers that be in college football, the Pac-12's got to stay a power league. Am I wrong?
There is nothing they can do to make them what we would consider a power league. Even if you were able to talk North Dakota and South Dakota State into reclassifying into FBS and stop dominating FCS like they have and convince them to come into your league, which they will be contenders from day one because those teams are that good. They'd be contenders in your league from day one. That will still not push the needle into making you what would be considered a Power 5 league.
Right.
It would make you the AAC.
No offense, Dakotas don't push the needle. They just don't. I mean,
They need more people.
yeah.
Unless we have a mass exodus up to the Dakotas, we can make that a major market.
Look,
That's a big undertaking.
I will say this right now, my second oldest child lives in the Dakotas. Not a lot of people there. Not a lot of people there. And you know, like even like a lot of the poaching has been done where it's very difficult to find these markets that you're going to be able to cobble it together to save the Pac-12. And again, we just talked about this. Throw logic out the window. If you're sitting there, terror. Seriously, Tampa in the Pac-12, stop it.
Cal and Stanford are in the ACC.
Yes.
And the Atlantic coast.
Unless you moved Cal and Stanford 3,000 miles and plunked them on the Atlantic coast, none of this makes any sense. If you're trying to go by logic and common sense, you're obviously not paying attention to college athletics.
That ship sailed a long time ago.
Logic and common sense have been beaten to death and are left on the side of the road. So as you look through this, it's just, again, we just went through it. There are some decent-sized cities in there, and then we threw out a Tampa and a San Diego. Again, but nothing is there to be able to save this league to make it Power 5. You can have a commissioner. You can try your best. You're going to sink into Group of 5 status. That's just what you're going to do. Does it suck? Yes. Is it fair? No. But unfortunately, the past two commissioners and a lot of uppity, pompous presidents in the Pac-12 all got together and say, hey, how can we crater our league? Congratulations. Excellent work. You almost had to do that on purpose. Nice job. And we just tried to save it because that's who we are. We're nice guys. And guess what? It ain't happening, Elijah.
I did write down on my sheet here potential programs to revive. Sure, Butler wouldn't save the conference. That's what we're getting to now. Can we bring Butler to FBS and get to the Indianapolis market where they haven't played FBS football since 1933?
Oh, there you go. I mean that's where you're at, right? I mean, you're throwing stuff against a wall to see if it sticks and smells. I mean, you're screwed over. That's really where you're at. And you can have a commissioner, and you can try, and God love you, try. I'm not telling you not to try. Try and try hard.
Don't get discouraged when it doesn't work.
I just don't know where you're going to go now. There's so little left. I just don't know. If you would have been proactive, first of all, you jumped in bed with Kevin Warren. That's really what killed you. And that goes to George Kliavkoff. Look, he didn't screw it up like Larry Scott, where ESPN was going to that Pac-12 commissioner, begging, saying, "Let us take over your Pac-12 network. Let us do the distribution. Let us run it. Let us help you get out of this mess.
Let us help you get seen by anyone, literally
And
anyone."
if you would have gotten in bed with ESPN, you might still be around. You didn't do that. That's on Larry Scott. Again, great idea, awful execution with the Pac-12 network. Then, if you would have let the college football playoff pop when it was supposed to, you probably still have your league because Southern Cal and UCLA and all the other folks that have left would have stayed because they knew they were in the college football playoff. Then you could have went to negotiate your TV deal, and hopefully you would have got enough to make everybody happy. You screwed that up too. And once the college football playoff got punted by Kevin Warren, and you being dumb enough to follow that guy, this is what you ended up having. It's gone. Nice work. Wow.
Moral of the story: don't team up. If you are a little pig, don't team up with the big bad wolf that's trying to blow your house down.
Absolutely.
Don't be on their team.
Yeah. Who's the guy with the tail and the big teeth holding the knife? Just
Seems fun. Let him in.
It'll be a good time. Oh, it's like that Geico commercial with the that makes fun of the horror movies. Hey, there's a running car. Let's get in it. No, let's go hide behind the chainsaws. That's the Pac-12. And what you did, you cratered yourself out of spite and jealousy, and we'll show you, SEC. Nice work.
Turned out great.
Turned out great for you. All right, we got a Firehouse Subtext of the Hour coming up at 803-404-6100. Also, some Sean Elliott sound, hanging out with Shane Beamer today at the presser, reintroducing Coach Elliott to the media and the fan base. We got some Shane and some Elliott coming up next here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Elijah filling in and helping out for beer here on the game.
And we're back on the halftime show here, 107.5 The Game. Continue our discussion. We have text of the hour, which I know Terry has. He's getting resettled right now. Getting resettled. We'll have the text of the hour. We're still accepting any type of suggestions on who the Pac-12 should be able to
Oh,
adopt.
did we get a couple of these?
Not that I've seen just yet, but I will throw out there that maybe Sewanee should get a call. Former SEC powerhouse from the early 20th century. There's history. There's another market. Well, it gets you in a state, not really a market. Sewanee, Tennessee. I don't know if it cracks the top 50 in markets, but probably not. I have a hard time imagining it does.
Well, the great Jim Thorpe played at Carlisle in the early 1900s.
And Jim Thorpe, big name.
Can I say brand recognition?
That is a lot of brand recognition.
Yes,
so we're
is.
taking all types of suggestions here.
What do you have there on the any good? Give a Papa Firehouse sub text in the hour for us real quick at 803-404-6100. You have the text line even up?
I do not have.
I have one. I'll get one. I got one here. I got one from last hour. Let's see. If someone would have said, this is basketball related, if someone would have said before the season, Carolina would be 21-5 in February, but would have 2 losses in a row for the first time this season, all of us would have taken that. So all the negative Nancys out there, find some joy. We're still looking at a pretty high seed in the tournament. And as we said earlier, I get and you've gotten it too. I get this fan base in men's basketball. I do. J.C. Sherbert said it on the morning show with Bill this morning that besides a 1-month run in March, there's been a lot of for a long time about the basketball program. And so you get 2 losses in a row, and they're not going to win another game the rest of the year. Here we go. Knew it was coming. Duck, why? Shoes dropping. Look out. Sky's falling, world's ending. I understand when you're used to being disappointed. And this is like in life. We've all got that relative. Never come through with what they tell you they're going to do. Always disappoint you in some way, shape, or form. So when they go through a string where they're not disappointing you, what's the human nature thought? Now, at some point they will. Or if something does go sideways, goes, yep, there we go. They're back to normal again. So I get the thought process, right? I do. But just me watching this, and look, you love hoop like I do. This is a good basketball team. Mm-hmm. This is not a fluke, what they've done this year. This is legitimately a good basketball team. They didn't fluke their way to smacking Tennessee and Knoxville. They didn't fluke their way at kicking Kentucky all over CLA. This is not a fluky basketball team. It's a good team. Now, does that mean they're going to go roll through the next 5 games? No. I figured 2 and 3 or 3 and 2, I believe, either way is how this is going to end up. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 and 3 because I like your matchups in the road games. Road games are hard, but you're a team that your style travels well, unless you have to go to Neville Arena, which a lot of teams, unless you're Kentucky, go there and end up winning. Mm-hmm. But I like the matchup against Ole Miss. I thought Ole Miss got back into the game here at CLA on accident with all those contested mid-range jumpers.
It was crazy.
Texas A&M has 2 players who can score. If you're able to at least make one of them shoot 4 for 15, I like your chances of being able to get in a position to win. But that's the thing about the style play. The slow, lower possessions, more methodical, using the shot clock to its entirety type of offense can make you beat anybody. It's the ultimate equalizer. Mm-hmm. There's 2 sides to the equalization coin. You can lose to a lot of teams as well. And this is really the only time, this is in the Georgia game this year, where you leave the game saying, wow, we really should have won that.
Right.
So I understand the trauma response, but this is still a really good basketball team.
It is.
And all the games here from now on out are quad 1 games. So if you get 2 wins here, then you have 5 quad 1 wins on the season. And heaven forbid Virginia Tech keep playing basketball like
how about that last night? Good
laying
Lord.
the lumber on Virginia, and they improved their net ranking, and that can get a little closer to being a quad 1 too. If that does, and you only win 2 of the next 5, you have 6 quad 1 wins with a road win at Tennessee. You are not missing the NCAA.
No, you're not. And to your point, that tempo thing is real. Now, A&M plays really slow too, but you know what A&M's decided not to do this year? They decided not to guard anybody. They are not the typical defensive team that Buzz Williams usually has. They're just not. And you're right. They got two guys that can score and a bunch of other guys that every now and then show up. Defensively, they're not as good as they have been or Buzz Williams' teams are, either Virginia Tech or Marquette. Chris Beard, a defensive guru, his team has zero desire to play defense this year. And yes, Tennessee's going to come in here angry. I get it. Florida's on fire right now. But Florida likes to play fast. And when you play really slow against a team that plays really fast, they get really frustrated. The world is not ending. If you can pull 2 out of the last 5 in one way, shape, or form, you're in no matter what you do in the SEC tournament, correct? Halftime show. Terry Ford hanging out with you till 3. Tyler will be back tomorrow. Our buddy Ed Bird had to skip it on back home. So we had Dave in here. Now we got Elijah in here. We're paying Elijah in beer and Dave in honey buns. So we got this thing taken care of.
Oh, wow. You really upped the compensation packages here.
I mean, our budget's shot. Jeez.
Because all that beer we've had to buy for him.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the honey buns, too. Trust me, Dave. That machine is... That guy shows up every day to refill the machine with the honey buns, and Dave's shotgunning honey buns.
He's greeting the guy who's refilling the machine at the machine.
If you could mainline a honey bun, that'd be Dave.
That would be Dave.
Just say it. All right, what's trending at 2, brought to you by Traditions, Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. What's trending, obviously, Sean Elliott. Back at South Carolina now as the run game coordinator and tight ends coach. Yes, Sean Elliott the last time was the offensive line coach. But here's Sean Elliott today during his presser being reintroduced to the media and the fan base. Here's Sean Elliott talking about that he will help out with the offensive line.
I think, with me coaching the offensive line for several hundred years before coming back here, I'm gonna hopefully help Lonnie and help the offensive line, and Lonnie's gonna help me understand a lot of different things. I mean, we're staff, and we work for the University of South Carolina, and I think ultimately we all know what the goal is. That's to be better in every facet, whether it's a run game, throw game, pass protection, whatever it may be. So if he needs anything from me, I'm going to offer it up to him, and we're going to work well together. And it's not about egos, A lot of people in coaching think this thing's about egos, and for me, I don't have an ego. I just stepped down as the head football coach at Georgia State University, become here at University of South Carolina, and I've got zero egos. But I want to help everybody I can help, and I need help in every area. I need somebody to tell me, about these about the stick route, and how we need that run. So I'm going to need people to come to me and offer some advice to make me the best coach I can be. Ultimately, we want to win, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, and the one thing about this reconstructed coaching staff is you got guys who have done different things. Like you got Sean Elliott, offensive line coach in the past, heck, an interim head coach here, head coach at Georgia State, a guy that can wear a lot of hats, can help you out, is very versatile. Coach Blackwell was an offensive coordinator at South Florida, now the running backs coach. Joe D was in the NFL for 140 years as a special teams coach. Then last year was an assistant, kind of like the game management guy at Texas to help out Sark, and kind of an advisory type role. And, when you add all these pieces, and James Coley was also an offensive coordinator in the past. So these are guys who have either been coordinators or head coaches or had worked in the NFL, and you're bringing them all together with this big melting pot of skills that can help each other out. And as long as you truly are putting your ego aside and saying what matters is winning, then you're fine. Now, again, when you got a bunch of guys who have done, like, for an example, you're Sean Elliott. You've been an offensive line coach. You're very successful. You're not the offensive line coach. Another guy is. But if you guys like Sean Elliott just said, look, I'll help out Lonnie Teasley. Lonnie Teasley can help me. As long as you're looking at this as a big collaboration and you're not trying to say, hey, dude, I did this a lot longer than you. Give me the wheel and just sit in the passenger seat. That will be a negative. But if everybody's, again, rowing the boat in the same direction, in the words of the great P.J. Fleck, that's a great thing because you got guys with coordinator skill sets and head coaching skill sets, and a guy that spent years in the NFL as a high level special teams guy. This all can just be fantastic because if the collaboration is to get a W on Saturday, then everything seamlessly works, and the guy to make that work is the point man, the dude in the head coach's office, and Shane Beamer. Because you got a lot of guys who've done a lot of things. And now you just have to mix the pot and make sure that, comes out tasting good every Saturday. But I think it's I like the way this coaching staff has been retooled because of what's been going on in the offseason. So, Sean Elliott there talking about helping out the offensive line. Also, speaking of that, the question is, too, you were an offensive line coach for a long time. Now you're coaching tight ends. How's the switch going to work for you, man? Cut to.
Well, I think you're just involved in so much more of the passing game, the route combinations, the concepts, that's one thing. I'm not going to call it a challenge because I've been around football my entire life, and I actually started my offensive coaching career coaching the tight ends at Appalachian State and loved every minute of it. I think as a tight ends coach, it really makes you involved in everything. Through the course of the offense, your throw game, your run game, you're just so much more involved in everything that they do offensively. I've always said, if you ultimately want to be one of the greatest coordinators, you got to have that concept, the pass and run game, and understand the combination and how it works together, and play calls and what sets up this, and this gives me the ability to be really back in that fold. And as a head football coach, I always had kind of the responsibility of overseeing all position coaches, and I would kind of go over there and throw some of my time in with the tight ends, the O-line, the running backs, the quarterbacks, and so I've had to experience all of that as the head coach.
So, again, when you started off coaching tight ends at App State, so when you're Sean Elliott, you've been around for a long time. You've done a multitude of things, coming back from being a head coach at Georgia State. So last thing from Sean Elliott in What's Trending at 2, brought to you by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. What role will he have in Dow Loggins' offense? Because, again, Dow Loggins, the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, I've only been in the meetings here now. This is just my second day. We're going to sit down, we're going to talk, and we're going to see where the deficiencies are in the run game here and see what we can do to improve them. If it means adding a couple of things, adding the run game to our personnel that fits the best, then we'll probably do some of that. But as we sit here today, we have not sat down specifically and talked exactly how we're going to do that.
And obviously they'll get that coordinated up. As the run game under Sean Elliott had this guy named Lattimore who was pretty good. He wasn't bad. So the run game was pretty successful when Sean Elliott was here as the offensive line coach in the Spurrier era. And again, we talked about this earlier. Lenar Sellers, dual threat type quarterback. Robbie Ashford, dual threat type quarterback. You got Rocket Sanders, if healthy, is an all SEC type running back. I've lost track of how many offensive linemen you have. Hopefully you can find 5, like the saying is, have one vision and can be solid. You just need a solid offensive line. So the pieces are here for a better run game than we've seen in the last few years. We'll see how that goes, and Sean Elliott obviously is part of that. All right, also, men's basketball, going back to what happened on Saturday against LSU, things kind of... Defensively, there were some breakdowns that South Carolina hasn't really had this year for the most part, especially once they got on this roll that they got on. But there were some breakdowns. And Elijah can speak to this because him and I looked at the stats. No team forces more long twos in the SEC than South Carolina, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how many long twos they forced in the second half against LSU?
Not a lot, because a lot of those were being taken in the paint.
Yes, there were no long twos. Because typically South Carolina defensively runs you off the three-point line and then brick walls you away from the basket. It's almost like the combination of running off the three-point line and then pack lining you like Virginia, right? Am I going down the right path there?
Oh, yeah. Protect the paint at all costs and make you shoot terrible contested mid-range.
Well, there were breakdowns, and LSU was getting way too much to the paint and too many looks at the basket. And they hit some threes, to be fair, to LSU. Lamont Paris talks about what LSU was doing differently in the second half compared to the first half. It's cut 6. I think some guy named Elijah Campbell asked this question at the presser.
Yeah, some scrub asked him this question about what actions that Matt McMahon was alluding to.
And the funniest thing is when you're asking it, you can see Lamont, the pained look on his face to have to answer this question like, oh, somebody brought it up. Oh, my God, I got to answer this. Oh, here's cut 6. What LSU was doing offensively in the second half that was different than the first half when they only scored 25, by the way?
Some of it was boiled down a couple times to a little toughness. The action that they were had, people call it Zoom. They were running Zoom action, and guys were going from a handoff and got downhill. And a couple times we challenged a shot at the rim, which is what we're supposed to do in that scenario, and then the big that was rolling got the rebound. And so I think we were in the vicinity to get that rebound, but we needed to be tougher in order to get that rebound. And we didn't. And that was at least 2 times that happened. And then because of that, there was a third time. So now you imagine this player that I spoke about that challenged the shot at the rim. Now all he sees in his mind is that the last 2 possessions, his man, he challenged the shot, and his man got the rebound and stuck it back. So then on the next one, he's gun shy to go challenge a shot, so the guy goes straight downhill for a layup. And so that's, when you want to talk about learning, that's a lesson for us, because that guy needs to rely on the second part of the plan happening. He needs to. Otherwise, it will shake his faith in the first part of the plan. And then now you're just guessing. And you don't want to be out there in a situation where you're doing that. There were probably 3 or 4 baskets that they generated from that action.
The one he's talking about with the putback, Jalen Reed killed them, the forward for LSU. On the one, when you have it, I think it was it Colin Murray Boyles who rotated?
Was that the one that make it 55-51 late in the second half?
Yeah, because when the big rotated over to the drive, I think Wright was Jordan Wright was the driver on the play. You have your big rotate to cut off that drive to the basket. God love Jacoby Wright. He tried, all 6'2" of them or 6'1" of them. And Jalen Reed, who was 6'10" last time I checked, just reached over Jacoby Wright and said, yeah, you might be boxing me out, but seriously, I'm going to punch you. And got the rebound and got the putback. And Wright, look, I get boxing out. I get being fundamentally sound. I understand it. But that was a tall ask. Now, again, maybe Wright wasn't the right guy to be there in that situation, and just the way it played out. Now you got a dude 6'1", 6'2", trying to box out a 6'10" guy on an offensive rebound, which Reed at 6'10" laughed as he got the ball over Wright and then put it back in for the hoop. Is that the one you're talking about?
I was talking about another one, which I guess would have been a result of that happening, because Colin was involved in a zoom action in which he got the ball handler, but he hesitated for a split second. He hesitated because he was like, I don't want to give up this offensive rebound. Hesitated for a split second, and that hesitation allowed, it would have been Tyrell Ward who got the first step on him, and that was when he got dunked on.
Right.
Ward got the first step, and then he tries to recover, and by that point, it's too late. The ball's already through the rim, and Colin's stuck in a position which he can't block the shot because he is that half second too late to the basket, because, like what Coach Paris said, at that point, you're guessing. And I think in that situation right there, Colin was just guessing maybe too much instead of kind of sticking to what plan A was, which was for him to contest that shot a little better at the rim.
Yeah, so again, these things that have been so solid for South Carolina all year on the defensive end broke down in the second half against LSU, where LSU scored, was it 39 points in the second half, only 25 in the first half. LSU was shooting a pathetic percentage in the first half.
They only had 15 points. No, 14 points in the first 15 minutes.
Now, think about this. LSU was without their leading scorer. Second leading scorer had 3 fouls in the first half, and they still and South Carolina goes on a huge run. They have a 16-point lead, and you still lose this basketball game. Again, you're going to have a game like this through your. Everybody has them. That's the first one the Gamecocks have had this year, where you had the lead late. And you didn't. I'll be honest with you. I talked about this in the opening riff of the show. When Cooper and Mack hit the dagger threes, I thought that was ball game both times. Those are huge shots. Typically, those are the shots that win you the game. The pass in the corner by Jacoby Wright to Mack got him doubled. Really, it was quadrupled when you had the baseline and the sideline. That's not where you want to throw that pass.
You still had timeout. You could have used that.
I didn't use timeout. And really, LSU was dying to foul, and the foul wasn't getting called. But anyway, so just, again, it was a perfect storm. All right, we'll come back in here, continue what's trending at 2 at Gamecock Traditions. Rick Pitino and John Calipari. Who's the bigger you-know-what? Let's get into that next on the halftime show here on The Game. All right, we are still what's trending at 2 on the halftime show, brought to you by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. All right, a couple other non-Gamecock notes we're going to get to about what's trending at 2. Let's start off. John Calipari, Kentucky, and give them a ton of props. They go to Oregon. They go to Auburn, and we saw it when the Gamecocks rolled into the Plains. It might be the toughest place to win in America at this point in college basketball. Kentucky went in there, actually gave effort on defense. They were physical, the complete opposite of what they've done pretty much all year, and got an excellent win. Thumbs up. Calipari and his staff did a good job getting them ready. The game plan, Cal went zone for a play. The players executed. The players gave effort on both ends of the court. Nothing but a great win. So here's John Calipari. First thing he says when he sits down at his press conference post-game at Auburn after the win.
Please just lead my players, let them be young and learn, and keep attacking me. I may be the worst in the country. Just attack me and leave these kids alone, okay? Thank you.
There's Cal being Cal. First of all, that's Cal. Trust me, I spent a little time in Lexington. Cal loves to hear Cal talk. And Cal loves to be Cal. And that was a Cal moment right there. Leave those kids alone. It's all on me. Now, Cal does that. See, if it's any other coach, you think about it totally different. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
But with Cal, you know Cal is putting the spotlight on him because he loves the spotlight on him. I've never seen a guy talk for an hour and say nothing but make it entertaining like John Calipari. I give him his props. Now, are there folks in that fan base that have lost their mind, and do they attack the players and they go after the players? Yes, because hoops, that's what matters in the state of Kentucky is UK basketball. I get it. And I understand that in the world we live in, we've opened a door for everybody to give their opinion, and we've opened the door for a lot of good. We've opened the door for a lot of people who need a life. And there's some people in the state of Kentucky with this team that is underachieved in a lot of people's eyes, have attacked everybody. Cal, the coaching staff, the cheerleaders, the mascot, the players, the beer vendor, everybody. So I get, but it's just Cal. And that's why you always take everything, you always shake your head when Calipari talks, because you know he's really taking the stage and making it about me and my great win I just got. And that's it. If this was Bill Self, you would look at it totally different, right?
Wouldn't think anything of it.
Be honestly a nothing burger, but it's Cal. Being overly Cal.
And what's so funny is that he is so cognizant of the criticism his players are getting and saying, attack me instead, as if he doesn't realize that if you go on Twitter after one of their losses, most people aren't blaming the players, they're blaming you for not getting these guys to buy in on defense. The people are attacking him. The fan base is attacking him. He's probably getting the brunt of it. And that's the funniest thing. It's like, it's this whole act of I'm taking this one for the team. Attack me instead.
Please.
Attack me instead. As if you're not the one receiving all the criticism. No one's yelling to fire Antonio Reeves.
No, Martyr Perry.
Yeah.
Not Calipari, Martyr Perry.
That's exactly the role he played.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why it's Cal. And that's why this is looked at differently than if it's almost any other coach in America. The guy who everybody thinks Cal is the junior of is Rick Pitino. Well, St. John's, after 12-4 start, is cratered. Blew a huge lead over the weekend and got beat by Seton Hall. So Rick Pitino got up and did what Rick Pitino does. He blamed everybody but one person. Hit it.
I don't think they move well laterally. I don't think they're going to pick it up in the next week. I think they're slow laterally. I mean, Sean Conway gives you everything he can. He's slow laterally. About 5 guys are slow laterally. Even the Celtics, when we lost, I've enjoyed every minute being the Boston Celtic coach. Didn't like the fact that we lost in that following year, but this has been the most unenjoyable experience I've had since I've been coaching.
Do you have any second thoughts of taking this job?
No, not at all. It's not St. John's. It's my team. I think they're very respectful. They hear, but they don't listen. It's taken me a month to get them to throw bounce passes. Actually, 2 months to throw bounce passes. Just thinking of getting ready for Georgetown, because Georgetown could definitely beat us. I'm not even thinking of the future at all. I'm just thinking of the next game and the next game and the next game, and that's it. Just try to get as many wins as you possibly can.
Oh,
and represent St. John's in the best fashion you can.
By the way, he did take a dump on the facilities in that riff. We just didn't play it.
They're not FCC compliant.
Well, he used a word that began with S and ended in Y when he was talking about the facilities. Fill it in. Feel free. Look, one person, Rick Pitino also went this thing about, the kids that were recruited to bring there to play for him. So basically he's pushing the assistant. Put it this way, Rick needs probably casts on both arms for all the people he pushed in front of the bus. Assistants, players, the facilities, which means he's pushing the university. One guy he forgot to include. And who would that be, Elijah?
That would be Rick Pitino.
He blamed everybody but Rick Pitino. Who signed off on the players, Elijah?
That would be Rick Pitino.
Who took the job at St. John's knowing the facilities were bleep?
That would be Rick Pitino.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Who puts together the game plans?
That would be Rick Pitino.
Who coaches the philosophies?
Yeah, that would be Rick Pitino.
So if players aren't doing the things they're being coached up to do, at the end of the day, who takes that responsibility?
That should be Rick Pitino.
But who isn't taking that responsibility?
Accountability ain't walking through that door.
That's right. Neither is Bird and Parrish or accountability. Look, I'll say this really quick. Did Rick Pitino, now again, let's put aside Rick Pitino and put another coach in that. Another coach might actually start calling out his team and his players because he's tried every way possible to get them to do what he asked them to do. Like if you're a parent, you have different levels of putting your kid in trouble. Once you reach level 10, now it's, okay, go scrub the toilet with a toothbrush until I tell you to stop, right? Another coach might get to the point of calling his team out in public because he's tried everything else in private. This did not feel like that. This felt like this team is embarrassing my one-loss record, and I'm going to now blame everyone but me. You heard Lamont Paris talk about the fouling that didn't happen. Who did he blame at the end of the day? Lamont Paris. I'm surprised Rick Pitino didn't blame Lamont Paris. Blame everybody but yourself. That's what gets me about this. And if you look, here's the other thing. If you want to say kids aren't giving you effort and you want to call them out, or kids aren't executing what you want and calling them out, but a kid can't do anything about being slow. That was the other low-grade shot here. And by the way, you signed off on him being on your team.
Yeah, the whole team is made up of transfers.
Right. So guess who signed up for slow-footed kids? Oh, you, Rick. And that was the other thing that killed me. Now you're going after the kid for something he really can only do so much. You can only go to so many speed schools to make yourself faster. You can only do so many plyometrics to make yourself more quick twitchy, right? If you're slow-footed, you're slow-footed. I just think all of that was so low grade and so unacceptable that if you would have done all that, but then at the end of the day would have said this, but when it's all said and done, it's on me. It's on me to make everybody better and to make our team better. So despite everything I just said, there's only one person to blame, and that's me, Rick Pitino. You didn't hear that.
We're going to.
I've got, see, the younger version of me would have more words about Rick Pitino, but I'm now older. I take a more respectful tact than I used to. But that was low grade. That was absolutely low grade by Rick Pitino.
Yep, and you know what? There were words he said at his introductory press conference. He said, a lot of guys aren't going to be here because they're not going to fit my system. Well, one of those guys is A.J. Storr, who is at Wisconsin, is going to be first 10 All-Big Team, Big Ten.
Yeah, he's lost a couple other kids who were playing very well in other programs that he could have used this year.
Yeah, and he couldn't even get his own player, Walter Clayton, to come with him from Iona to St. John's.
Who's tearing up in Florida right now. Yep.
Having a fantastic season.
Yep.
Maybe there's a reason he didn't want to go to St. John's and play for Rick Pitino again.
Yep. What's trending at 2, brought to you by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll come back in here. It is February 22nd. It's the greatest day in the history of the world. We'll talk about that next from 1-800-GOT-JUNK on the halftime show on the game. So you want to do some stuff with the house, right? Maybe you want to redo the kitchen. Maybe you're like, lighting. I want to change the lighting, the fixtures. I want some cool cold hot stuff there going into the sink that makes it look like, dreamy. Whatever you want to do, call the Nest, 803-978-2025, and just tell them, what you're looking at, what your dream scenarios are, what your goals are. And they'll personalize your dream and your goal to your home and your budget. Over 70 years of experience with Nikki and Graham and the staff over at the Nest. Give them a call. They will have you come in for an appointment, and they will work with you to make your home look the way you'd like it. 1331 Gadsden Street in the Vista. Call 803-978-2025. The Nest. Over 70 years of experience to help you out. Time for the greatest day in the history of the world, brought to you by or sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Elijah hanging in for Ed Bird, who was hanging in for Tyler. So, and of course, you're paying Elijah in beer. All right, greatest day in the history of the world, brought to you by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. This day in 1951, a college point shaving scandal prompts Long Island University to drop basketball and other intercollegiate sports. LIU revives basketball in 1957. Wait a minute, I thought this stuff never happened before DraftKings.
I didn't know DraftKings was that old.
Wow. I thought college athletics was pure until all this awful DraftKings and all these other awful gambling things started happening here in the last few years. No one ever did anything.
Yeah, or shady stuff going on when players weren't making money.
No. Nothing happened at Boston College, or nothing happened back in 1919, or none of this stuff ever happened.
Players talking to agents, big no-no. Players talking to mobsters, different story.
That's right. I'll never forget the picture of UNLV after they won the national title with all the players in a hot tub with gangsters. That never happened before DraftKings. My bad.
Never did.
All righty. Also, this is interesting because of the person. In 1972, in the ABA, a player for the Denver Rockets set an assist record, a single-game assist record of 23. His name was Larry Brown. Later, head coach at Kansas, at UCLA, in the NBA, won an NBA title with the Pistons. Larry Brown, great head coach. People forget Larry Brown's a pretty good basketball player. Not like Hall of Fame level ball player, but Larry Brown played at North Carolina. Larry Brown was a good solid pro, played in the ABA. Larry Brown at one point had the ABA record for assists in one game at 23.
And wore overalls when coaching the Indiana Pacers in the ABA. Point me to another coach who could rock overalls on the sidelines and pull it off.
Think about that for a minute.
It's a very small list. It's a list of one.
Let's see. I was thinking Jerry Tarkanian would have looked good in overalls.
Ooh, with the towel too.
With the towel.
Not only would it look like a farmer, he'd look like one that was doing work.
Biting the towel, sweating. All right, 1974, and think about and I'm bringing this up because of money, and plus it's a very interesting story. Gordie Howe looked at, if not the greatest, one of the two greatest hockey players in NHL history. He comes out of retirement in 1974 and signs a $1 million 4-year contract to play with the Houston Aeros of the WHA because he wanted to play with his sons, Mark and Marty Howe. And Gordie was not young at that point. Gordie was an animal, man. Gordie Howe was, whew.
Gordie wasn't young even when he was young.
I know. He looked 60 when he was 30. All right. Also, a couple of figure skating deals. 1988, Brian Boitano wins a gold medal in Calgary. Men's figure skating, 1998. Tara Lipinski at age 15 became the youngest Olympian figure skating champion for the women. She beat fellow teenager Michelle Kwan to take the gold medal. And I think I've got another one in here. Too bad Tyler's not here. This day in 2011, Trevor Bayne, in his second Sprint Cup start, wins the Daytona 500. It was a lot of stuff that happened to get Bayne at that point, but Trevor Bayne held on and won the won the Daytona 500 at 20 years old in his second career race. How about that?
That's pretty remarkable.
That's crazy.
It's a Fernando Valenzuela-esque welcome to the league.
Yeah. And by the way, it's not like he went on and had a great career because he didn't.
Nope. One race wonder.
One of those anomalies in the world of sports was Trevor Bayne. All right, that's the greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK here on the Halftime Show. All right, let's skip back. We had talked a lot about what happened with the men over the weekend, the loss to LSU. And going back to the women and their victory over Georgia, which set the SEC record for consecutive conference wins. Dawn and the crew, if they get a win this week, they clinch the SEC regular season title. A team that was picked second in the SEC, by the way, behind LSU.
Sixth in the country.
A team that was pretty much, they lost seven players off a very experienced team. So you're a whole new crew of starters, like Carmelo Cardozo was sixth man and pushed in, and now you're a starter now. Bree Hall, oh, by the way, now you're a starter and you have to step up your game. Again, a lot of different pieces moving around on this basketball team. You had newcomers like Pau Pau and Fawali. And oh, by the way, who's number one in the country? Who's undefeated? And who's undefeated? Who's about to clinch another SEC regular season title? And I'm going to give Dawn and her staff a ton of credit. You saw how you got beat last year. You saw what Iowa did to you. And it worked. And you said, you know what? We got to evolve. And they have. This team, if this team's perimeter was with last year's team, Iowa couldn't have played that defense. You would have pulled Iowa out of that defense. And Dawn learned. Dawn didn't say it out loud, didn't have to. You saw what she did in the offseason. You saw adding Pau Pau. You saw Fawali as a generational type freshman come in. You've also got Johnson. And Bree Hall's, hitting between 45 and 50% from three most of the year? And here they are again. They're back. And by the way, they still kill you down low and still play defense and get in your grill like nobody's business. I'm so impressed. In a year, like you said, Elijah picked sixth. Which, by the way, you know how many teams like to be preseason sixth in the country?
And that wouldn't take it as an insult?
Exactly. Just the job that the players, the coaching staff, just phenomenal work. Phenomenal work this year by everyone involved in that program. Let's hear a little Dawn Staley here real quick talking about, which one do I want here? How about number 14, Elijah, on setting that SEC record for consecutive wins? Let's get that in real quick.
One, I think is really hard to do nowadays. So we've been very fortunate to have this type of success. It's not even a record that I actually would have looked at 43 games ago. Not. But obviously Tennessee, right? Tennessee was, the story program that gave us something to reach for unintentionally. We were able to do it. And again, I'm just proud of the former players and our current players to put together, some of the most historical stretches in this league. And it says something to be able to do that, because this is a hard league. It's a hard league to stay healthy. It's a hard league to win. It's a hard league to just win at home and on the road, and we were able to do that. So, again, super proud of the program that all of our players that contributed. So it's a great feat.
And there's Dawn discussing that SEC record. All right, before we get the break, 803-404-6200. We got two more pair of tickets for today's game to go check out South Carolina and Winthrop. It is 4 o'clock start, 3:45 pregame here on the game. Call right now. We're going to take callers 1 and 2. Let's just get them out. Get it done. You call right now, 803-404-6100. The first two callers will each get a pair of tickets to go see South Carolina and Winthrop today. 4 o'clock first pitch, 3:45 pregame right here on the game. Call right now, 803-404-6100. First two callers win and get tickets here on the game. We'll come back, wrap this baby up. Firehouse sub text of the hour. Maybe we'll yip with Jay Phillips for a little bit as well here on the game. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. We could start every segment with the Ramones. I'm good.
Nothing makes me feel like I'm running away from somebody quite like a Ramones song.
Well, like in my car, when my kids were younger and they're in the car with me, there was a rule is like nobody talks during Ramones songs.
Which, luckily for them, sometimes are only 2.5 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I love the Ramones, but I know they're about 2.5 minutes, and a lot of times they all sound the same. I get it. I just love the Ramones. I'm not going to pretend they're winning Grammys. I just love the Ramones. I just think they're just the Ramones.
It's good mindless music. You're not listening for, like lyrical genius.
I'm just enjoying the tune, man.
Cheap thrills and hot action, man. That's the
Love me the Ramones. Exactly. All right. So I love a lot of punk. I even like some of the, early new millennium punk that drives old punk heads crazy. I like punk. I like pop punk. I just like punk. Just
good
saying.
genre.
I like punk. Anyway, all right. Firehouse subtext the hour 803-446-100. We had a text from Michael Lynn talking about how this team, the South Carolina men's basketball team, plays with heart. They play together. There's a lot of things to like right now. Yes, the LSU game was tough, but still, if South Carolina goes 2-3, you have an 11-win SEC season. If you can go 3-2, you end up with a 12-win season. You might put yourself, Elijah, in the first 4 top seeds, which then moves you to a Friday game. The world is not ended. All is not lost. It's going to be okay. Like you said before, this team didn't get 21 wins the fluky way. It's a good basketball team. Are they the darling of the efficiency mob? No. But you know what they do? They play together. They play discipline. They slow the game down to their pace and tempo to basically slowly strangle the life out of you. But like we talked about earlier, I said, again, when you put your hand over fire enough, eventually you burn some fingers. Or, like Jay Phillips cooking.
You guys talking about the Nets firing Jacques Vaughn? I just came in on this, so.
Yeah. We've talked about it all day for 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's the news of the day.
Where you been?
I love Jacques Vaughn, man. He was one of my Jacques Vaughn and Melvin Watson have so much in common from the 90s. Seriously. Love those guys. Love those guys.
Jacques Vaughn was on some of the most underachieving Kansas teams ever.
He was great in the Coach K video game.
That's what matters.
Absolutely phenomenal.
That's what matters.
Absolutely phenomenal in the Coach K video game.
I love that beard now.
Yeah.
That thing's got some, obviously, I'm not a beard guy, but
listen, Jacques. I mean, anybody.
I like Jacques Vaughn.
The Nets. What does Nets rhyme with? And is in the same metro area.
Oh, Jets.
And the Mets.
Mets, Jets, Nets, Islanders. No, anyway.
No, see, no. There's 3.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
A lot of people from that area will say the Nets, the Jets, and the Mets all are together on one side. And the Islanders have won a bunch of Stanley Cups back in the old days.
Way
the Rangers.
Way back.
Yeah, the Rangers won in the 90s.
The Islanders, when I was little, won like 4 straight.
They were a dynasty when we were kids.
Yeah.
I mean, good.
Old Nassau
Brian
Coliseum.
Trottier and Mike Bossy and Billy Smith was the goaltender.
I don't know any of the players. I just know.
See, back then, the young little Terry Ford loved the NHL.
Yeah. We didn't get a lot of that here in South Carolina.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Baltimore, we had the Caps.
Sure.
They were okay. But
I'm going to D.C. soon. Try to get Caps tickets.
Yeah, good luck. Oh, by the way, see how much money it costs.
Oh, my God.
My girlfriend, because we got my son, his major birthday gift, he loves Giannis, and he loves the Bucks. He's a huge Giannis fan.
Right.
Because he's the same height.
That helps.
So we got him Bucks Sixers tickets at Wells Fargo for this coming up weekend. So we're going.
Nice.
And the tickets are in the hundreds.
Okay.
By the way, if you want to go to a Wizards game,
they give them away.
They by the way, they pay you hundreds.
Right. Actually, the arena's full of hostages.
Yeah, exactly. They can't get out. Open this door. But hockey tickets.
Oh my, man! And I think let me double check. I think Chicago's in town, which makes it even harder.
Thousands of dollars.
I think that's what my wife said. That
Either
Chicago
Flyers or Caps tickets are thousands of dollars. Good luck.
It's ridiculous.
It's past ridiculous.
And I want to go real bad.
I'll be honest. I've been to a lot of minor league hockey in my life. I've never been to an NHL game.
Oh.
That's on my bucket list.
Okay.
NHL game. And so my girlfriend, she was look at the Flyers tickets. She calls me. She's like, I love you deeply. And I was looking at Flyers tickets.
Yeah, no.
It's not happening. Unless you want the cars repoed, you want all the utilities turned off, and the daughter comes out of school.
Well, I'm glad I could come in and derail your conversation and talk about Jacques Vaughn and expensive hockey tickets.
Anyway, what were we talking about? I don't remember anymore.
I think it was Carolina basketball.
Yeah, and so, again...
But you said that the sky's not falling. I mean, what the hell hit me on the head the other day?
I tell you what, trust me.
Because that hurt.
I've talked to a good amount of South Carolina men's basketball fans. The season's over.
Well...
They're not going to win another game, going to the NIT.
Trauma response.
It's all over.
That Saturday was brutal, man. But
that's the first time this year that they lost a game that they had right there at the end.
Oh,
first time all.
Oh, you had a 16-point. Anyway.
Oh yeah,
Thanks for having me on the show.
LSU's leading scorers out. Second leading scorers in foul trouble. Yeah. You got a 16-point lead. You win a 17-1 run in the first half.
Yeah.
All right, we're done. Jay's next. See ya.